Mr. President, Heads of State and Government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I wish to thank the General Assembly for the honor bestowed on the government and people of Nigeria by electing our national, His Excellency Tijani Muhammad Bande, to the presidency of the 74th session of this august body. This is indeed a great honor to our country. Nigerians are truly grateful and shall endeavor to live up to the expectations and the responsibilities thrust upon us. Ambassador Muhammad Bande is an experienced and seasoned diplomat, and I am confident that he will prove to the international community his suitability for this most demanding assignment. Let me also offer my sincere thanks to the outgoing President, Her Excellency Maria Fernanda Espinosa Carrez, for her skill, resourcefulness, and endless reservoir of patience in piloting the 73rd General Assembly. In the same vein, may I commend the Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, for his tremendous energy, his genuine international outlook exhibited by his leadership of the United Nations. Your Excellencies, delegates, the theme of the current General Assembly is galvanizing multilateral efforts for poverty eradication, quality education, climate action, and inclusion. These are the prime areas calling for collective action which will benefit national and global interests. Today, the world is at a critical juncture. This year marks the first anniversary of the International Day of Multilateralism and Diplomacy for Peace. This year also marks the 100 years of the founding of the League of Nations, leading eventually to the establishment of the United Nations as a part of the post-World War II international order. Article 1, Paragraph 4 of the United Nations Charter called for harmonizing the actions of nations in the attainment of common ends. These common ends include A, international peace and security, B, prosperity and social justice, C, respect for human dignity, and D, protection of environment. Multilateralism, symbolized by the United Nations system, has brought immense benefit to the people of the world. It has saved lives, prevented wars, restored peace and stability, as well as generated economic and social progress in many countries. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, we must admit that as the world grows richer, there are regrettable signals in the world economic and political order. Millions in Africa and around the world remain in abject poverty. Furthermore, we are witnessing a backlash against multilateralism in the shape of a rising tide of racism, xenophobia, resurgent nationalism, populism, and tendencies towards protectionism and unilateralism. The pristine principles of the United Nations appear threatened. On cessation of hostilities after World War II, the United States, in one of the greatest selfless undertakings in history, decided to revive Europe through the Marshall Plan and uplift and restore Japan economically. This generous policy catalyzed a great economic revival globally. This action of the United States not only benefited Europe and Japan, but the United States as well, through vastly improved trade and cross-investment. The United States and Europe have become friends and allies since the end of the war. The United States and Japan also become friends and allies. This example can be replicated with respect to Africa. A developed Africa will not be antagonistic to industrialized countries, but will become friends and partners in prosperity, security, and development. A prosperous Africa will mean greater prosperity for the rest of the world. A poor Africa will be a drag on the rest of the world. Is this what the international community wants? A coordinated multilateral effort should be set in motion to utilize and maximize the use of the enormous resources on the African continent for the benefit of all nations. Investing partners will be able to recoup their investment unifold over time. Current attempts to help develop Africa by industrial countries are uncoordinated and plainly incremental. We have the skills, the manpower, and the natural resources, but in many instances, we lack the capital. Hence my plea for industrial countries to take a long-term view of Africa. We request you to come and partner with us to develop the continent for the benefit of all. Africa charges you with the singular task of initiating the effort we are calling for. The United Nations has in place processes for promoting collective action to combat global threats. No threat is more potent than poverty and exclusion. They are the foul source from which common criminality, insurgency, cross-border crimes, human trafficking, and its terrible consequences draw their inspiration. Poverty, in all its manifestations, remains one of the greatest challenges facing our world. Its eradication is an indispensable requirement for achieving sustainable development. In this regard, Nigeria has developed a national social investment program, a pro-poor scheme that targets the poorest and most vulnerable households in the country. Under this initiative, easy access to financial services are facilitated to traders, artisans, market women, and cooperative societies. This type of initiative can help lessen and eventually eliminate mass poverty in Africa. At the core of our efforts to build an inclusive society, our programs are focused on youth and women empowerment. These programs aim at ensuring women and youth participation in governance, industry, climate action, and agriculture. On the international scene, Mr. President, the United Nations has new opportunities to take the lead on issues that continue to cloud the prospect for international peace, prosperity, namely the right of the Palestinian people to have their own country free of occupation. The international community has spoken from Resolution 242 of 1967 to the present day on the rights of Palestinian people to have and live in peace in their own land. The risks associated with nuclear proliferation and unfair and unjust trading practices notwithstanding the World Trade Organization rules and precepts, the looming danger of climate change. On climate change, Nigeria stands resolutely with the international community in observing agreed carbon emission targets, which I signed in 2015. We have since issued 2 sovereign-grade bonds and have added an additional 1 million hectares of forested land, taking our total forest coverage to 6.7% through collective national effort. As we advocate and strive for inclusion within our societies, we must also ensure inclusion prevails in our collective action as members of the international community. That is why we support the expansion of the Security Council to reflect the diversity and dynamics of the 21st century. Mr. President, Your Excellency, from Asia to the Middle East, Africa to South America, violence and the threat of conflict continue to flight the lives of too many people. Our own country is no exception. Nigeria is a nation of nearly 200 million people of diverse groups. Our diversity is our source of strength, which is why in the elections this year, our people back the policies of tolerance, inclusion, and community over the politics of protest